Yeah, here we are. Fantastic. Kia ora tato. Welcome back to another Q&A here at Digital Boost. I'm Georgia Hatchis, your host. I'm really excited today because I get to bring back Chanel Clark from Chanel Clark Marketing. Welcome, Chanel.
Hello.
If you didn't see our Q&A, I think it was February. It was earlier in the year. Yeah. So I dragged Chanel on. I tracked her down on LinkedIn, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And I dragged her into our events because I wanted her to talk to us about how she created her business. And at that time, she had done it by creating community. And we talked about why creating community was important. It was a really great Q&A. If you haven't watched it, go onto our platform, pop in her name into the search bar, and it will pop up. Today, we're going to be talking about LinkedIn. It's a beginner guide to LinkedIn. Chanel has been blowing up since she left Arepa, which you'll talk all about that, I'm sure. But Chanel like basically made Arepa what it is, took off, started out on her own, needed a little break, and now she's busy as. I feel so grateful that you've taken the time to come and sit and chat with us. Any of you who are here live, welcome. Please pop any of your questions into the Q&A function here in the Zoom. If you are on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, go into that chat function. I will keep an eye out for your questions. And yeah, let's take it away. Chanel, welcome. Lovely to see you again.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat about this. And I mean, as you said, LinkedIn has been a massive part of the last 9 months of me starting my own business, also just in general. So, I mean, it's super exciting to talk about just because I think it's so important for people to realize the power that LinkedIn has. I mean, I've literally got all my work from LinkedIn. I don't have a website. For the first 6 months, I didn't even have a pitch deck. So to have LinkedIn kind of be my lead gen tool for the first 9 months of business has just been insane. And now I want to make sure that everyone knows how to use it properly because I'm like, it feels like such a dirty little secret to keep if I don't share the wisdom and the knowledge of how much it's impacted me and how to do that.
Oh, thank you. We want to hear all the dirty little secrets.
All right, I will share my screen. Oh gosh, where is that gone? Um, Sorry, technical difficulty. That's just disappeared for some
I
reason.
know we just had it. It's all
Um,
good.
why is that not showing up? Future full. God, do you think I would be better at tech?
Well, it's really funny. Everybody who's watching, I literally, like the minute before, I said to Chanel, "Oh, should we just practice sharing your screen?" And we did. Maybe we shouldn't have.
Hold on. Sorry.
No, all good.
Oh, gosh, this is not great. Okay, hold on. Go away. Oh, I think it might be because I was already presenting from when we did the test run. Um, Found it.
All good. There we go.
All right. So you want to learn how to LinkedIn? Welcome, everybody. That's what I'm going to be chatting through today. So as I mentioned before, I guess just for a bit of context of why I'm doing this, why I even feel like I have a voice on this topic is because about 2.5 years ago, I started taking LinkedIn seriously. Pre that, I thought it was just a platform for CEOs, VCs, entrepreneurs, and sort of felt like I had no place on this very stale platform. And I mean, maybe that was why I sort of stood out from when I started posting on it because I didn't know what to do on it. So I just posted in a way that I thought was how I was supposed to, and it so wasn't, but it made me stand out in the best way possible. And I've sort of just stuck to that. I guess for me, in terms of work, how it's benefited me is as soon as I started taking it seriously, I noticed that my community of followers was rapidly growing. So, for example, when I started at Arepa, I think I had maybe 2,000 followers, and 2 years later, I'm almost at 12,000, which is insane. Like I left Arepa, gosh, less than a year ago, and the followers have gone from 5,000 to almost 12. And I mean, I do credit myself for some of that. I also think it's just, showing up at the right place at the right time on a platform that people are readily engaging in and want to know more about you as a person versus the business. So, yeah, I'm just going to cover off, I guess, a little bit of how to set your platform up properly. Even if you think you have, chances are you haven't. There's some little tips and tricks that people do kind of miss. So I'll talk through that, and then I'll actually give you a few ideas of posts that you can do that have worked really, really well for me. So even if you're like, oh, LinkedIn terrifies me, I don't know what to say, I'm going to give you some tips of how to start. So even if it's just one post a week or two posts a week, you've got a little bit of a guide. And I mean, you can even tag me in it and tell everyone that I told you to do it so that you can blame me and not yourself. Like would love to see everyone get off this call and just be inundated with all these tags of Chanel made me do it. So please. Um, First step, so there's five key steps to get you ready for LinkedIn. So obviously setting your profile up correctly is the main thing, so people can find you, they know who you are, they know what you're doing, they know what to expect from you. I'll also give you some ideas, as I mentioned, of what you can talk about. I'll go into how often you should post, how to grow your network, and how to engage effectively. So obviously, I'm not a LinkedIn guru. I don't do master classes. This is just what has worked really, really well for me. So yeah. Why is that not going next? Sorry, there we go. Technology is not my friend this morning. Wow. Oh no, sorry, this is not showing me the right. Oh gosh. This has done. Okay, no, I'm sharing the wrong presentation, which is just great. Oh gosh. All right, hold the line, callers. I'm just gonna, where are my downloads? All right, you will get a tasty view into my desktop at this point. Please be, oh, there's a photo that is going live on my LinkedIn this morning.
From my end, it looks like it's frozen.
Oh God.
So maybe unshare and then share again.
Okay.
Like stop share and then share again.
Stop share.
Yeah. And this viewers, all of you viewing, this is where I would usually probably try to fill in with some witty banter, but I really want Chanel to focus because as she posts on her LinkedIn, the girl's got ADHD and we need focus, find the presentation.
All right, I think I've got it. So I'm good at LinkedIn, not good at tech. So this is just a good reminder that you can be really good at something and really shit at something else. And that's
You
okay.
are really, really good at LinkedIn. That is a fact.
Yeah. I've used up all my energy to nail LinkedIn, and everything else just falls off the face of a cliff.
Look, we've got some comments. It's nice to see that I'm not the only one with 100 tabs open, and you're making me feel normal. We all have tech issues. Thank
Hey,
you, everyone. Yes.
yeah. If anyone ever feels like they got way too many tabs, let's jump on a call and I'll show you what that really looks like. Okay, I've got it.
Great.
So I thought I'd just go through an overview of what is LinkedIn and why you should use it. So obviously it's a B2B networking platform used throughout the world. There's over 1 billion people on LinkedIn. 2.5 million of them are in New Zealand, which is wild. There's 15 million in Australia. So I've got a lot of work to do to get those followers up. It's obviously used by businesses. So you can create company pages on LinkedIn, which I'm sure you're all aware of. And businesses really use this to highlight and showcase the work that they're doing. And I think there's been a lot of conversation lately over the importance of a business page versus a personal page. And my opinion is it's definitely important to have a business page, but will you get the same engagement on a business page as you will on your personal page? No. And that's because people don't follow companies, they follow people within companies. So unless you're Coca-Cola or Nike, who are just like above and beyond anything, it's always important to remember that, like, yes, you should have your business page, but I just don't think that anyone is going to get that level of engagement versus your personal page. And
That's
while
a
I'm on,
Yeah, go
sorry.
ahead. I was going to say that's a really good point because so you finish off what you were going to say and then I'll say,
I was going to say, while I'm on, I guess for context, guys, like, because I have ADHD, if I think of something, it has to come out. So some of this might seem a bit jumpy, but I've just got to get it out of my head. A lot of people, when they have the company pages, the employees, if they want to share what's on the company page, they just share it as a post. Do not do that, because what it says, and I mean, this is from my own personal experience, is it basically implies that you don't want to put the effort in to rewrite the post. So you just share it from your company page and the engagement automatically just goes down. LinkedIn's algorithm also doesn't reward this kind of content because it knows you're just being lazy. So my recommendation is, if you've got a great win or a post you want to share on your company page, literally just repurpose the copy in your own voice for your personal page. You can use the same image, same hashtags, everything, but just do not directly share the post. Like, this is my biggest thing when I'm working with clients, is I'm like, we will stop doing this the moment that I start, because it just doesn't hit the same.
that's what I was going to ask about. So there you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And obviously on a personal level for LinkedIn, you know, people use it to talk about who they work for, their role, they give insights into their day, etc. So I mean, if you follow me on LinkedIn, I very much almost use it as my diary. People ask me if I journal, and I'm like, yes, I journal on LinkedIn, and it just so happens that everyone can see it. And I mean, at the moment, I post almost every day. It's sort of just what works for me, but we'll go through what might be able to work for you guys as well. I've already been through the slide, so I'm ahead of myself. Yay. So first of all, we'll go into how to set up your profile so people know who you are and why they might follow you or need your help. So very important is your background photo. This serves almost as a personal billboard. It gives you a chance to highlight who you are, what you offer. Obviously, if you work for yourself and provide a service, you can also mention who you work for. So I know a lot of people will include like their company logo. Obviously, mine is just my marketing consultant logo. And it might even, you know, be a chance for you to highlight any skills you want. So, you know, obviously I just say something about kick-ass marketing. You can show a bit of your personality. So, I mean, I know some really great designers who have like utilized the hell out of this. I'm not a designer. This was done on Canva. It's the bare minimum, but it works for me and I'm sticking with it. And then it's also important to think about how it works with your profile picture, because your profile picture sits there. So obviously I've just gone and done a, hey, that's me. Nothing great breaking the ground here, but it kind of just shows a little bit about my personality. I mean, I'm pretty basic. My billboard picture's basic, so we'll roll with it. Next is your profile picture. So obviously shows who you are. Ideally, what you look like now. A lot of people I jump on calls with will have a profile picture from about 10 years ago. And while it looks great on LinkedIn, when you jump on a call, it's really unsettling to notice that the person looks quite different to the profile picture. So I would definitely recommend a now photo. A photo of yourself sort of from mid-chest up with a clear background is really good. You can even color your background. I think right now my background's purple, and it just helps you stand out. So when you're commenting on LinkedIn or doing a post, you know, people's eyes are automatically drawn to color versus a white background on the already white LinkedIn page. So, you know, you can kind of go crazy on that little bit. Also, like, obviously industry dependent is on how much you want to jazz it up. So obviously if I was a designer, I'd probably put a lot more effort into making this and my background picture cool to almost highlight my design skills. Clearly I'm not a designer, so I'm just sticking with what works. You get a headline as well. So this has a maximum 220 character limit. So it allows you to highlight where you work, your title, what you do, or what you're passionate about. So as you can see, I've said marketing consultant, ready to help your brand grow. That's sort of my pitch. I've highlighted that I used to be at a Reaper because that's what a lot of people know me for. And then I've also included that I'm the founder and chair of the marketing club. So really simple. I've sort of split each sentence with like a capital I, so it looks like a block or something, just so you're not using commas. Please don't use emojis in your headline. I know it's tempting. You see a lot of these marketing gurus and there's like fires and unicorns and rainbows everywhere. And while it looks great sometimes, it's really distracting from what you're trying to say. So I would honestly recommend like your title, where you work, maybe if you want to say a little bit about yourself in a few sentences, but like that's it. And it's just another way to sell yourself, right? So yeah, I've sort of hinged on the basics. I'd love to put like rocket emojis in here, but I'm not going to go against my own advice. Current position, I'm sure like everyone, this is kind of a basic when you sign up to your LinkedIn account that you have to set up. But again, it's really important just to make sure that this is current. So, you know, where you currently work and the title you hold, you can also choose to include the industry that you're in, and this will really show people. So if anyone's ever searching at the top of LinkedIn, you know, I need someone in the marketing industry or advertising industry, your profile's more likely to show up. So definitely include the relevant industry that you're in. Um, you can also choose to have it in your intro as well. So I sort of, you know, I've already got in my intro that I'm a marketing consultant. I then make sure the position says the same thing just so it looks cohesive. I think a lot of people might be like, oh, I'm a digital marketing manager here, and then their position description is kind of something different, and it sort of just trips the viewer up a little bit. So try and stay same as much as possible. The About section. So this is your chance to introduce yourself to the LinkedIn community. I know LinkedIn does default, if you can't be bothered doing this, they can kind of like auto-generate based off what your experience is. Please don't do that. Like even a chat GPT intro would be better than LinkedIn's auto intro because it talks about you in third person. You know, Chanel is, Chanel does. And I mean, that also just signals to people that you haven't been bothered to set up your LinkedIn account properly. I've also sort of used this as almost like another way to pitch myself, right? So like, while I don't always pitch myself in my content that I post, this is a chance for me to pitch myself in my about section and exactly what I do. And then down the bottom, I've sort of include the high level of what else I'm skilled in that I don't really want to talk about in the pitch, but is really important for businesses to know. And have some fun with it. Like this is the chance for people to learn a little bit more about your personality. So, you know, if you've only got one or two sentences versus a bit of a story, you can automatically see that people will be like, oh, this sounds like a person I want to talk to. Or for me, hopefully get work from.
And what would you say would be the average length of this? You know, we don't want it too long, right? If you're
Yeah,
having a story.
I think like 200 to 250 words would be really good. You don't want to babble on. I mean, I've seen some and it's almost like you've got to scroll, and that just terrifies me. I won't even read that wall of text. But then too little again kind of feels like you haven't been bothered. So I think 200 to 250 is like the maximum that I would recommend. And I mean, treat it as if you're, you know, back in English class, like introduce what you're talking about or who you are, have sort of like the middle statement of what you want to get across, and then conclusion at the end. Like you're kind of telling a story, right? So write it as if you are storytelling and make sure it's conversational. So you're actually engaging the people who are reading it rather than being like, this is what I do, this is how I do it. Contact me. Like I mean, I can't sound robotic if I tried, but I have read a few and it's just very like line, and it's not a great reading experience. There also is an option to have a featured section. So this can highlight any posts that you're really proud of. So say if you offer a product or service, you know, this might be a post where you pitch what your product or service is. It could be just a post that did really well on LinkedIn and you want to show everyone how well it did. It could be a topic that you really care about that you want to make sure that people can see. You know, you can also showcase any recommendations that people have given you or upload a video of you introducing yourself. So obviously for me, you know, I could essentially record a video of what my services are or just introduce myself and then have this here. It's really just a chance, like very similar to Instagram, how you can pin a post. So it does definitely help because, I mean, you think about it, like you post in your LinkedIn timeline and then, you know, the next post goes and then you've sort of lost that one. So this is just the chance to highlight anything that you want to sort of like keep at the top of your profile. And it also gets heroed at the top. So after you scroll down past your headshot and your title of who you are, this is literally the next section underneath. So anyone on your profile has to scroll past the featured section.
Just to go back to the about, we've got a comment here in the Q&A. It's really hard when you've had lots of diverse experience to fit this all in here without selling yourself short, I find.
Yeah, I think for that, I mean, I suppose it's easier for me because I now work for myself. So that's really the pitch. But when I had sort of all the other experiences that I was trying to summarize, I really just sort of figured out like what is the main thing that I want to get across in terms of experience. So for me, my roles have always been in marketing. So it was very much, like I'm a marketing manager with XYZ experience. I sort of heroed the key responsibilities that I'd done that I thought people would want to know. And like, yes, there's always 1,000 other things you want to add, but I think pick like the top 3 or 4 that you think would be really good for people to understand what you do. Also, I would, even if you're happy at your job and you love your job, I would always write it as if you're expecting a recruiter to read it, because then you're going to talk about yourself in a more favorable way. You're going to make sure that you mention the big rocks of things that you do. And it just kind of almost like helps you sort of figure out like, what are the key things I need to mention about myself? If you were in an elevator and you had 30 seconds to pitch yourself, what are you saying about yourself and your experience, and just kind of hone in on that. And then you can always use other bits of content, or, we'll get to it later, how you can have your job experience, like use those then to specifically talk more about what you want to do.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you.
So as I mentioned, the experience section. So obviously you get to add where you currently work, anywhere that you have worked. You can summarize. So my comment here is, if you did have more that you wanted to say about each of the roles that you've been doing, but it won't fit in the about section, this is sort of the place that you can do it. And I mean, again, I would only recommend like maybe 1 or 2 paragraphs per thing, but this is where ChatGPT can help, because you could put in, for example, you could put your JD into ChatGPT and be like, look, I need to summarize this into 2 or 3 key sentences. Maybe this is the role that I'm in, or I want it to come across in a more authentic way. And then it will kind of give you like the high level overview of what you do. But this is always really helpful to make sure that you get people to understand what your role entails. And obviously it naturally defaults to how long you've been working there. You can also include files. Say if you were a designer, you could include like a portfolio of work or a piece of work you've done. For myself, like I think I removed it, but I used to have like a photo of like some of the work that I did for a Reaper when we did like the big billboards and marketing campaigns and stuff. So it does give you that option, which is really, really cool. So it kind of becomes more of a digital CV/picture book. I mean, everything in moderation. Don't go uploading like 15 photos, because that's just not a great user experience, but like 1 or 2. Education section, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. You can add the education that you've got, as much as like not, I guess nowadays people don't really look at this as much, but it is nice for people to see if you have done any big bits of education that you're quite proud of. I mean, I've had a few people reach out to me who either went to the same university that I did or did the same course that I did with Reforge. So it's just sort of another nice thing to complete your profile. And then the skills section, this is really great because it's actually where people can endorse you for the skills that you nominate that you have. So for someone like myself, who's a consultant, who's literally selling what I do, if people can endorse me for the same things that I'm talking about I'm doing, it kind of shows people that I'm not just saying I do the things, like people actually know that I can do it. And I mean, even if you're not working for yourself, you're working for someone else, just it's good to get people to endorse you for those skills that you're doing. So say if a recruiter was looking at your platform and they can see that, 100 people have endorsed you for marketing strategy or social media or, business development, it kind of just shows that it's not just you saying you do the thing, it's everyone else acknowledging that you do that as well. And I mean, when I started this, I've reached out to a few friends on LinkedIn. I was like, hey, can you please just confirm that this is what I do? So you don't have to wait for people to do it. You can ask them. And I mean, everyone sort of, I'll do it for you if you do it for me. So it's a good way just to get started.
We've got a question in the chat. If you've done work for particular clients, do you name them or just the type of work you did?
Especially on LinkedIn, I would just talk to the work that I do. Some of the clients have been under NDA, so it's very much a broad, like I worked for a fintech company and I did this sort of thing. I think obviously if for me, I've got a proposal as well that actually heroes the clients that I work with, but that's something that I can control who I send it to, whereas LinkedIn is like the open book, right? So I think always err on a side of caution and just talk to like a general overview of the work you've done. And then if that kind of captures attention, then it becomes a more specific, intentional conversation on a call or when I send through a proposal. Unless, of course, the client's happy for you to like yell and scream about the work that you've done, and then like that's like top tier goals. If the clients are like, yes, no, like tell everyone that you've done the work. But yeah, I'd always just check with them first, or just err on the side of caution and just sort of talk to the industry and the overall work that you did.
Thank you.
There's the recommendation section as well. So obviously this showcases that you're a human, the job you did and what it's like working with you. This is great for people running their own businesses or if you're seeking future employment, because obviously usually when you apply for a role, your references are from your manager or someone else, but it's nice to have the employee version of like what other people in your workplace think that it was like working with you. And you can also give other recommendations as well so people can see what you say about others. So it's very much like a give versus take situation, right? So it's nice for people to read like, oh, okay, so, Chanel's a great person, but also like, what have I said about other people? And that shows like my character as well. And I mean, obviously, only reach out to the people that you know you're going to get good reviews from. But I always try, and I mean, I probably need to utilize this more, to be honest, especially now that I'm working with clients. Like, this is something that I need to step my game up on. But getting, even if it's one or two sentences, like now I sort of say to clients, like, hey, how was this experience for you? What was this meeting like? What is working for me being like? And even if it's just a little kind of thing, then it starts kind of building up that social proof of like, oh, okay, so this is what Chanel is like as a human. This is what working with her was like. This is where she did really well. I mean, I also don't shy away from like constructive criticism, not negative feedback, constructive criticism. So if someone did say something like that, I probably would chuck it in here because it shows that, you can move past that and there has been like a feedback conversation happening. But again, up to you. Licenses and certification. So this, as the name suggests, if you've done any sort of big certificate kind of stuff that you want to highlight, I mean, recruiters will look at this mainly, to be honest. Like, I think it's not necessarily an essential part of LinkedIn, but it does sort of help, right? Like, if I always think about if a recruiter's comparing you versus someone else, and then they scroll down here and seen that you've, taken your own initiative and done all of these courses and got these certificates that could be advantageous to the role, then like just include them. And I mean, for me, for prospective clients, if I was constantly upskilling myself on the latest sort of marketing automation or digital marketing courses or went on a big strategy thing, it sort of just shows that like I consistently invest in bettering myself and I'm always learning. So it's just a good thing. And as it says, it's got the show credential button there, so you can even upload proof that you've done it, which is very important. I've seen a few people try to like fake that they've done these, and I'm like, oh, that's not great. There's an interest section too, so it's a really good way to show people who visit your profile what you're interested in. It can show like the people you follow, which is the top voices. It can show companies you follow, any groups or newsletters that you're in or subscribe to. It's kind of just another human element. So very much how like Instagram people can see who you follow. This is sort of the same sentiment. So, a lot of people, if you go into my profile, a lot of the top voices I'm following are all like big marketing or brand leaders. So people know that I'm constantly being inspired by these people or looking at these people for thought leadership. They can see companies I'm interested in, groups, etc. It's just another way to sort of be like, this is who I am as a human, and these are the people that I'm interested in.
We've got a question about where you would place memberships to professional bodies. Is there a section for that? Like, I'm a member of,
Memberships.
yeah.
That's a really good question, actually. I think you could include that in the about section, because I would say LinkedIn doesn't have a default area for that. So, I mean, if there is sort of like memberships that you are proud of that you want people to know, you could put that in the about section of, like, I'm also part of XYZ for this long. If there's a responsibility that you get or maybe an advantage of being a member, write that in there. But yeah, there's no specific section on LinkedIn that has like a membership.
Mm.
section, which is interesting actually. I kind
Mhm.
of think they would have. And I mean, unless that membership, if obviously for here it might be in the groups if they've got like a group LinkedIn page for the membership, but if it's something completely off LinkedIn, then yeah, I'd just put that in the about section and figure out how to weave that into the rest of your introduction that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you.
That's all right. So what can you post about? So I've got some ideas for regular content that won't stress you out because the biggest bit of feedback I get is I don't know what to post. It freaks me out and I don't know what I'm doing. So hopefully this gives you at least a little bit of guidance. So I've come up with 3 post ideas for you to start, and this is what I follow. And I've done this for like 2 years and I'm still doing it because it just works. So for Monday, I always recommend doing a reflection post. You can reflect on the week that was. You can have a look at what you learned. If there's anything you want to share, was there someone you were inspired by? Monday's a really great day for posting LinkedIn like this because it's uplifting, it's informative, and it's inspiring. So it kind of just starts the week off on a really good note. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but if I'm on LinkedIn on a Monday, I don't really want to be hit in the face with like heavy thought leadership stuff. I just want something that's kind of like, oh, it's going to be a good week. Everyone's doing well. Here's something interesting that someone learned the other week. It's inspired me. So that's sort of like what I found that works really well. Um, Obviously, as the week goes on, we can get a little bit more sort of like thought leadership stuff. So Wednesday, I always try and do a thought leadership post. So this might be something about me being in my current role. Is there like a bit piece of wisdom that I want to share with others doing similar? Was there a new tool that I learned to use? Was there like a change in the industry that I'm seeing that I think would be relevant for the people that follow me? Or is there just an opinion that I have that I think would be relevant for my audience? And Wednesday's a really good day for engagement because it's in the middle of the week. Sort of Monday might be like the lighter end of everyone's like rolling into Monday and they're kind of like, oh God, the week's starting. By Wednesday, you're kind of in it, you're on a roll, everyone's engaging with you. It's also like a really good excuse to post something that's a bit more serious or with an agenda. So for me, if I'm ever trying to pitch the work that I do as a consultant, Wednesday is the day because I know then that, if that's like the one sort of like hard hitting post I do, then I also have Thursday and Friday as a buffer to be like, okay, I'm back to like light posts now, like everyone enjoy yourself. Um, and then on Friday, I always do a personal post. So, some ideas here might be like, what can't you survive the week without? Maybe it's the morning coffee or the walk, or, you do a bit of yoga and that's become part of your daily work routine. Was there someone that had an impact on you that week that you wanted to shout out? Is there a new book that you got inspired by or signed up to a new course? Friday is obviously engagement can drop quite a bit given that it's the end of the week. So this is sort of, go back to like a fluffy post, something that's just kind of lighthearted, it's personal, it's human centric, and it's just more of an enjoyable read. Like I learned this the hard way. I used to use Friday as like a real like, hard, stern thought post. And then I was like, oh God, no one's reading my stuff. So yeah, I've learned this the hard way for you guys, so you don't have to. But yeah, Friday's just light, airy, ready for the weekend sort of thing.
So, Chanel, if you don't have the bandwidth to do 3 posts a week,
Yeah.
let's say 1 or 2, what would you recommend and when?
I definitely think the reflection post is amazing because it's just like everyone, and I guess for context, the reason that I started this was because I would essentially roll into every week and feel like I hadn't really done anything the week prior. I was like, I've achieved nothing. My to-do list isn't going down. Like, what am I doing? And I kind of just gave myself, sorry, I'm going to move out of the sun. So you're not seeing all these stripes on my face. Um, I sort of forced myself to sit down and be like, well, hang on, Chanel, like write down what you did last week. Was there someone that inspired you? Was there a lesson that you learned, something you realized that you didn't do well? And it made me realize that, yes, maybe it wasn't the most productive week ever, but I actually learned something, whether it was good, whether it was bad, whether it was helpful. And like now I just do that consistently because I move so fast all the time. So to be able to sit and pause and reflect on the week that I had has been so powerful. And I mean, from an engagement point of view, it's really great as well because you can tag people in that post. So if you look at my LinkedIn, I do these on a Monday or a Tuesday, and I'll nominate someone to do their own reflection post. or I'll hero someone else's piece of content that I've been inspired by and tag them in. So, if you're lacking content ideas, you can just have a look at what someone else has posted and be like, oh, I'll take that. I'll credit them for them and tag them in it. But that gives me something to talk about as well because it resonated with me. So I think definitely this post. And then thought leadership or personal, obviously if you don't run your own business, or you're sort of struggling on like, well, what am I as a thought leader? I think a personal post is always good. Like people love, oh, hey, I went for a walk on the beach this morning with my dog before work, or here's me with the kids at the playground, or this was what I did this weekend. Like show that human side of you. I think that's what LinkedIn is missing. And that's sort of like my unintentional mission on LinkedIn, is to be like, hey, we're all humans here working away. So reflection post, personal post, once or twice a week, honestly. And I mean, these could be at the end, like Monday to Friday. If you feel like you need those 3 days to breathe, then Monday to Friday. Or if you want to batch them Monday to Wednesday, I would always leave at least a 1 day gap in between these, because there's no point front loading your posts and then being quiet for 5 days. So yeah, if you can try and split them up a little bit, that works best, in my opinion.
Thank you. There's another question in here. I have been using this framework, 3 posts per week, and at the moment it seems my posts are going into a vacuum and not getting any of the traction I got a few months ago. What's
Mhm.
happening and how could I solve this?
Yeah, I mean, the LinkedIn algorithm is always changing. You think, there's over 1 billion people on the platform and everyone's shouting for attention. So it kind of changes the post that it favors. So don't stop. If anything, amp up the amount of posts you do. And that's what I did. I remember when I started, I was posting once a week and I was like, oh, that's enough. And then I was like, oh, but what about 2 posts? And then what about 3? And then 4, and then 5. And now it's 6 times a week. And I mean, obviously, I don't expect you guys to like go and do that, because you need to build up to it. So I think if 3 is not working for you, try 4, and then have a look at how that might impact the what you're seeing. And I mean, make sure that you've got those kind of content buckets like examples here, so you've sort of got intention behind what you're posting, rather than just being like, oh god, I've got to do a post, let me get something up, because a lot of the strategy that sits behind what you post matters as well. And I mean, more than happy to jump on a call and talk about this one-on-one, but it just kind of, there has to be a reason for you posting. And if I ever get to the point where I don't have anything to say, I will not post, because it is so obvious when you don't mean what you post, or when it's generated by Chat GPT or something. So I'm like, silence is better than screaming. But if you've got something important to scream about, then just do it more regularly. And LinkedIn's very similar to Instagram, right? Like the people, you hear about accounts posting 3 times a day and it sounds insane, but it's an attention thing, right? You're fighting for attention. So the more you show up on the platform, the more it's going to realize, oh God, this person is continually showing up. So maybe we'll start showing their posts more. And then as soon as they start getting more engagement, you kind of become someone that sort of gets into the hamster wheel of LinkedIn's echo chamber. And then it just sort of is exponential.
Thank you. That's great.
So here's an example of the reflection post. So I always start this off with the same type of heading. It's reflection day, baby, new week, same habits. Here's what I learned last week. This is sort of just to create consistency. So everyone knows when that's the heading, this is what I'm doing. I haven't changed this heading for like 2 years. Some people might get bored of it. I don't know. For me, this works. And I'm just like, I'll just keep doing it. I always do 3 key reflections. So these are either my own or something that someone has said that has inspired me, like I mentioned before. So I tag them in it. This obviously gives more reach. It gives authority to me tagging the person, and it obviously credits them. So I'm not plagiarizing what they're saying. As I mentioned, I nominate someone to do their own reflection post. I mean, here I shooted my shot with the CMO of Pepsi, Todd Kaplan. He never replied. I don't know if he saw it, but hey, like you never know, right? And then I also will always include like a personal picture that I feel like showcases me or like summarizes the week. So, I mean, I think this one might have been like me with a coffee at the beach or something, but this is just a really simple format. I think if you do any more than 3 or 4 sort of bullet point reflections, it start to feels a bit long. So 3 to 4 is like really the golden ratio here. I mean, this one, to be honest, is longer than I would have normally done. I just felt like I had so much to say after the week that was. But yeah, you can definitely sort of go on the lighter side of this as well. And I mean, I think the nomination part is really great, right? Like you can just kind of, it's like you've done the reflection and then you want to pass it on to someone else. And like, this is now so cathartic for me to reflect on the week that was before I move into the week that is. This is an example of a thought leadership post. So I think a really important part here is that it highlights the industry that you're in and something you notice. So for me, obviously, it's marketing. I start out with a quote because it gets people more connected. It feels like I'm having a conversation with them. So this one, the marketing industry isn't built for us. It kind of prompts of like, oh, well, you said that. Why have you said it? What is this post going to talk about? It explains, what I've noticed or the topic that I'm talking about. I think it's always really good to pose a question at the end. I mean, this can seem a little bit gimmicky, and to be honest, I hated doing this at the start because I'm like, oh, it's so obvious what you're doing. But it actually leaves people, even though they might not answer in the comments, which is obviously the goal, it leaves people thinking of like, oh, okay, like what did I get from that post? What do I think would be something that I would add? And then obviously make sure to use hashtags that are relevant to your industry. So, for me, marketing, career, growth, experience. And I mean, very generic, but it just means if anyone was searching those hashtags, hopefully this post would show up. And then the personal post. So, I mean, I know this is terrifying for a lot of people because you don't want to show your personal side. You also think you don't have anything to share. And I just want to remind you here that the value in you sharing what you do or how you are, like it's valuable because there's only one of you. So anything that you think is different to what someone else will think. So I know it's terrifying to be like, oh God, I don't want to say anything. But there is so much value in you saying something in the way that you think and the way you want to say it. So like these posts used to terrify me because I was like, oh my God, this is like a part of who I am as a human and I'm putting it out on a public platform. But I think just go for it. And if it doesn't work after a few months of doing it, then like stop doing it. But you're never going to know if you don't do it, right? So for these, like forget an agenda. All you want to do is remind someone that you're human. So pick something that you're passionate about. And I think it's very obvious when you read posts that people are passionate about because that passion just comes across in the way that they're writing. And, you can identify what you're passionate about. Tell them why it matters to you. So for this one, I admitted that I've been bullied. Like that was just such a personal thing for me, but it was just being honest and having that conversation and realizing that I probably wasn't the only person that feels like this. And maybe, yes, I'm the first one to be honest about it on a platform that is this public, but I just knew that it was a conversation willing to have. I mean, I was so uncomfortable after I posted. I hit post and I was like, oh my God, this is like terrifying. But it's an important conversation to have, and it showed people that it's not always like the glitz and the glam. And I've had a very successful 9 months, but I wanted to remind myself that there's a human behind the successful 9 months I've had, and like I too have gone through hardship and had like real life struggles. I think it's also really important to like mention how it makes you feel. So whatever you want to talk about, just get that human element in there of like, this is what I want to say. This is why it matters to me. But more importantly, this is how it makes me feel, because that's where you'll really hook other people in, whether they've been through that, they've experienced someone who's been through that. Talking about your emotion, I'm not saying you need to go and write like the sappiest emotional post ever, but just what does you being human showing up on this platform look like? And whether it's just a little tiptoe in or like dive in head first, like I've done here, like that's up to you and what you feel comfortable with. But it's just, these are the posts that do well because it shows that you're a human behind the work that you do. And again, I always end these posts with a strong key sentence that sort of summarizes the point. So back to English class, right? Intro, main topic, conclusion, sort of summary. Like if people have sort of just read the intro and then scroll down to the summary, does it sort of say what the majority of the post was addressing? And then again, add relevant hashtags.
A question about personal posts that
Yeah.
has come up in the chat. How do you handle the difficult comments or personal DMs you get off the back of ones like this?
Yeah. First off, the difficult comments or DMs are really disappointing on a professional platform like LinkedIn. If you follow me on LinkedIn, I'd recommend having a look at the post I did last Wednesday. It was pretty rough, but it's challenging, I think, to be honest, and like not in a negative way. But if you're going to do a personal post like this, you do need to be prepared that not everyone's going to agree with it. So if you're not someone who can handle criticism, and I mean, this is the minority, right? On the whole side, LinkedIn is a beautiful platform and most people really cheer you on and support you. But there are always going to be the minority. And unfortunately, they're really good on their keyboards and they love popping into the DMs and giving their opinion. So most of the time, water off a duck's back, I just ignore it. I actually feel sorry for them. I'm like, if you put your time and energy into messaging me with something that you disagree with, like that's on you. It's not, I can't accept the responsibility of your opinion. There's definitely times where some of the opinions do get to me a little bit, but I've realized now that this is just the way that I think. And if you don't agree with it, don't follow me. I've done nothing to prompt a comment or a response from these people. So if they don't disagree with it, hit the three buttons at the top, don't follow me, and then let's just get on with our day. But it does get challenging sometimes. Like I think there's, like Spider-Man said, right, with great power comes great responsibility. So as you build your followers up on LinkedIn and you become more vocal and expressive and, you've got a bit more of a following, you do sort of have to realize that that puts you in the firing line sometimes, which isn't great, but I mean, the platform is getting better. And I've had a lot of people go to bat for me in the comment section when they've seen someone comment something that's just a bit rough. But yeah, it's definitely something that is important to keep in mind, but I would never let that stop me from posting, to be honest. But I've done it enough that that's just kind of like my hellfire rule now and the hill that I'll die on. But it has definitely like been a bit challenging to realize that some humans still want to behave that way.
And you do respond to them or you don't? You're just like, don't follow.
Mostly I ignore them.
Mhm.
Some, if it's just a complete far left opinion that I just kind of, I mean, I'm quite confrontational sometimes if it's an opinion that I really strongly disagree with. So some I will respond back to just to kind of get my point across because I don't like someone only telling half the side of the story. But to be honest, the majority I ignore, I delete, I block, and I'm like, get on with my day.
Great. Thank you.
And I mean, it doesn't always happen. This isn't to terrify anyone that this is what happens. I think because I've sort of died on this hill of doing this thing now, I definitely kind of take into account that this does happen. But 99% of the time, everyone are beautiful, supportive human beings that I adore. And it's just the 1% that sometimes keep me up at night.
Which is crazy if you think about 99% of support that you're getting. That should be like enveloping you from the 1%, right? So
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
get so focused on that criticism.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So key things to do when you post. So always have a think about who follows you and what they might be interested in. So for me, obviously, I have a lot of marketing people that follow me purely because I've actually followed them. But I mean, just think about who your audience is, right? And what they might find interesting. Like if I was a engineer talking about marketing, it kind of wouldn't make sense. So have a think about that. Also take into account, like, does what you're saying add value? So as I mentioned before, if you feel like it's forced, don't post it. No one, I think the really hard truth with LinkedIn is no one cares. So whether I post 6 times a week or disappear for a week, the likelihood of people noticing but caring is like minimal, right? So I think, and I mean, that also kind of gives me the confidence sometimes if a post doesn't do well, I'm like, meh, no one's going to remember this tomorrow. I'll just keep going and try something else. And that was what I did for like 2 years. I was like, if this doesn't work, it doesn't bother me because tomorrow no one's going to remember that post that I did. And it's annoying because I remember, like, I'm like, oh, but last Monday I posted about this and no one cared. But that's just my own hang-ups that I'm working through. And I mean, I'm sure a lot of you are like that as well. But like, honestly, no one remembers. Um, Always include relevant hashtags to the topic that you're talking about. So I mentioned that before. It's just a good way. I'm not saying hashtags are like the golden rule of getting noticed, but it is just a good way to start showing up if people are searching those. Another thing I found that worked really well is to comment on other people's posts for 30 minutes before posting your own content. So a lot of LinkedIn gurus will say, well, this is a joke, but this is honestly what works for me. When you comment on other people's posts on LinkedIn, it almost notifies the algorithm that you're getting ready to post because you're starting to be active. So in my opinion, it kind of like warms it up a little bit. I know it's not a sandwich, but it kind of starts showing them that you're coming on the platform, you're doing the thing, and like they reward you for using the platform in the way that they intended, right? So if you comment on people's posts 30 minutes before you post, then you post, then you stay active on the platform, which is what they love. They love people to be active. Then naturally, people are going to see that you've commented on other people's posts, then you've done your post, the algorithm's going to serve your post into other people's timelines. And it's kind of just this really good sort of momentum to get into. And I mean, there's definitely times where, I don't have 30 minutes, I only have 10, or I only have 5. So anything is better than nothing. This is like the golden amount of time that I've noticed. Anything longer than 30 minutes, don't do it. You can if you want, but I mean, honestly, this hasn't made much of an impact. 30 minutes for me has really been like the key point, and I definitely see the impact in posts that I do this on versus don't. There's been times where I've rushed a post or, I've only got 5 minutes. And then I just noticed that, if I've posted and then tapped out of the platform, LinkedIn hates that because they want you to stay active. So kind of make sure that you do that. And then replying to every comment on your post. So, people have liked what you've posted, they've gone to the effort to comment. So like the least you could do is reply back, even if it's just a thank you, or, maybe it's starting like another mini conversation in the post, just something that sort of shows that you appreciate that someone has taken that time to do that. And in terms of timing for posts, so I always post between 8 and 9 a.m. every morning. This For me, it's manageable in terms of when most people are on the platform. A lot of people will check LinkedIn before they kind of start their work day. I don't know if this is just like a human psychology thing of getting the big social media download before you go about your day and kind of lock in and focus. I have tried posting at the end of the day. It's not a bad idea. I just think if I post at 8 a.m., I'm more likely to stay on the platform for half an hour and interact versus if I post at 5 or 6 o'clock at night and then I'm trying to have dinner, have a shower, sort of like wind down. There's definitely been times where I've done this and then suddenly I'm up for the next 3 hours, stuck in the LinkedIn hole, going down a rabbit hole of, replying to comments and stuff. So I think in the morning for me is what I've noticed that works. But I mean, you can trial it. Some people get really good engagement if they post at lunch because people are on their lunch break wanting something to have a read. So definitely try it. But 8 to 9 a.m. is what works for me.
A couple of questions have popped up here that I wanted to throw at you.
Yep, go for it.
How do I know when to follow or connect with someone on LinkedIn?
I mean, it depends what the intention is there. So for me, I will actively add people in the marketing industry. I'll literally just send them a connection request just because I think that their experience is interesting. Maybe I want them to join the marketing club that I run. I think if you want to follow someone, obviously there's a difference between following and connecting. So following just means that you'll see when they post, whereas connecting, you're actually a connection of them. But I mean, for me, there's no rules, right? I will just connect with everyone I find interesting, connect, even if there's people I want to follow with, I'll connect with them anyway, unless they're these huge LinkedIn gurus and then they don't let you connect with them because they're already tapped out of their connections. But for me, just add people, just do it. I mean, when I get random ads from people I don't know, I'll always reply as soon as I can see that the connection request has come through. And I'm like, hey, so-and-so, thanks for the ad. Have we met before? And I've done that. It's such a basic thing, but I've sent that reply for the last 3.5 years to anyone who adds me because it prompts them to say why they've added me. So I think if you're going to add someone, just be prepared to kind of back up why you've added them. Don't just add and then kind of ghost away because it's well, you've added them for a reason. So start the conversation. Even if it's as simple as hey, I just really love the content that you're doing and want to keep in touch or want to make sure that I see this every week. That's fine.
Yeah, I think I remember that conversation with you when I
Yeah.
reached out to you.
I was like, who is this?
You're like, have we met? I'm like,
Yeah.
no,
What do
would
you
you like
want?
to meet? Would you recommend using ChatGPT to generate hashtags?
I mean, I don't really recommend ChatGPT for anything. But if you are stuck, right? You could if you've already drafted your post up, you could copy it into ChatGPT and say, what are the relevant hashtags I should use? But I mean, it is pretty self-explanatory. If you're talking about engineering, hashtag growth, hashtag consultant, whatever. But I mean, use it as a thought starter. I do not condone copy pasting, but I mean, for hashtags, I will make an exception. So yeah, you can do it if you're really stuck on what the relevant hashtags are.
What are your thoughts on LinkedIn groups? Do they have the same reach and effectiveness as Facebook groups?
LinkedIn groups, I honestly feel unless it's industry specific, they're not that great because the engagement, you're on a B2B platform. So the only purpose of a B2B group would be for an industry thing, say if it was maybe an event or a discussion. But in saying that, Slack would be a better tool for something like that. Facebook groups I get because, you've got like the community pages, if you're living in an area and everyone's joined that, or, the buy, shop, sell pages, or flatmates wanted or whatever, like it makes sense on that platform. I think on LinkedIn, maybe it was an afterthought, and I don't know if anyone's really utilized those properly. You can do, like, say, I could have very much easily done the marketing club as a LinkedIn group, but it made more sense just to do the marketing club as a company page and almost have that as the group. So I wouldn't not recommend it. I think you just have to figure out what is the value of having it as a group over using a different tool for that. And I mean, some brands do it well, like I know Gymshark has LinkedIn group pages for like different areas of their community, but in saying that, those community members are also very active on Instagram. So, or very active on TikTok. So it kind of just feels like another platform, not another platform, but another type of communication for communication's sake versus it being a value add.
I just wanted to double check here because we do have lots more questions. I love that you guys are so engaged. Thank you so much. Do you want to continue with the presentation, or shall we
No,
keep
this
answering?
is yeah, this is done.
Oh, great. Okay, so this is perfect timing, everyone.
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing. So thanks for answering the question about hashtags. A follow-up question: how many hashtags would you recommend for posts?
No more than 5, to be
Okay.
honest. I think like, I don't know about you guys, but when I see someone with like 10 or 15 hashtags, it's just a little bit of an eyesore. 1 or 2 kind of doesn't make the impact unless, and I mean, impact is relative, right? Because all you're trying to do is show that this is a category or an industry of what you're posting about. So I think my magic number is between 2 and 5. Definitely don't force it. Like, I know I've seen some people who'll be like hashtag business, hashtag work, hashtag woman in business, hashtag young female in business. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't. So just make sure it's relevant to what you're actually talking about. And if that is necessary, then do it. But don't do like 5 variations of a similar hashtag. Just pick one hero hashtag and then like you stick to that.
And then use that one over and over.
Yes.
Yeah. In your opinion, is it worth doing a premium subscription? And are the LinkedIn courses recognized or a waste of time?
Premium subscription is good, like especially if you're wanting to connect with professionals on the platform, as well as, I know, like, say for like a sales background or for someone like me as a consultant, if you're wanting to be able to get more information about people's profiles, or maybe like sneakily stalk someone without them seeing, and you can put yourself on like an anonymous thing, it is really handy. I think if you're just doing it for general sake, I wouldn't really say it's worth it because it is about $80 a month. So yeah, if there's like a business lead gen purpose of it, would recommend highly. If it's just personal and you're wondering what the benefit is it, then I wouldn't do it.
Well, that leads to the next question, which is I've noticed that some profiles have a book an appointment by their heading, but can't seem to figure out how to do that on mine. Any tips?
Yeah, the easiest way to do is YouTube how to do it. I know LinkedIn tries to tell you, like, if you go on your edit section, I find it really hard to follow the instructions on LinkedIn. So just YouTube it, and there's like 1,000 different LinkedIn gurus that show how to do that. But it's a really good feature. So yeah.
And is that in the free as well as the subscription? Do we
Yeah.
know? Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. It didn't used to be, and then I think they realized that people were not doing it. And I mean, it just sets your profile up way better than normal. So it's offered now.
And I don't know if this question's been answered with what we said before, but would you recommend using the same hashtags every time, or would you find new ones every post? You did say like that one hero hashtag. Would you then mix it up?
Yeah, so for example, like when I post, I'll always make sure I do hashtag marketing, hashtag growth, hashtag consulting, and then whatever other 2 fit the specific content that I'm posting. But I'll always at least do those 3. Same with when I do my reflection posts, I always do hashtag reflection or hashtag reflective post or something like that. Just so it's a kind of like, if I could own 2 or 3 hashtags, if someone always sees my content and they know that that's what it is, it's like pick those 3. Same with, like, see yourself as a brand, right? If you're a tech company or something, you want to own 3 hashtags that are like definitely sort of indicative of what you do.
Um, awesome. And then I just was going back to see, Bridget, you've said here, thank you for answering my last question. I just wanted to go and see what that was. That was the connect versus follow question. This might seem like a silly question, but I am still not clear about what the point is of creating a community on LinkedIn. Oh, Bridget, you've got to go watch our other Q&A. Do
I
you,
mean,
yeah,
yeah.
I was like, do you
I
want to sum that up? Yeah.
Yeah, I get, to be honest, for a lot of people, maybe there isn't a point. It really depends what you're doing in business and what you're trying to achieve. If I wasn't starting if I didn't have my own business, if I didn't run a marketing club, if I was just an employee working for someone else, I wouldn't care about community on LinkedIn. But because of what I'm doing, community matters to me. Community is my livelihood. It is the purpose that I am creating with the business that I'm running. It is the impact that I'm creating with the marketing club I'm running. So building my community on LinkedIn. I mean, it was literally the way that I got all my clients when I first went out on my own, was because I'd built a community of people who followed me on LinkedIn. And then when I announced that I was going out on my own, that whole community transitioned to leads, and then they transitioned to clients. Like, I didn't even have to pitch myself. I already had essentially, a warm lead base ready to go the minute that I said it. So I think there's massive benefit there if you're running your own business and want to build community around that. But I mean, if you are just an employee, doing the day to day, then I don't think it's as important.
Yeah, and Bridget, if this is who I think it is, I think this is Bridget's a coach. So if this is the right person, and so this would be a great opportunity for you to create a community there because you are a service-based industry. And
Yeah.
yeah, and she said she is going to go back and watch the other Q&A, which is great. I think it was super beneficial. Yep, that's me. Thanks so much. I thought that was you. Hi. Kia ora, everyone. Fantastic. Oh, my business is creative and my work history is the opposite. My clients are on Facebook and Pinterest, and I don't expect to find my clients on LinkedIn. Is there a creative community on LinkedIn?
Not that I know of. I mean, obviously those are very different platforms. I mean, but you might even be able to find people. Like, I know that, for example, a lot of designers, LinkedIn isn't like their go-to platform to try and get work. But if you connect with people similar to you, there might be platforms or like communities that exist outside of LinkedIn. Like, I know that a lot of creatives, or say agency people, will have their own Slack channels that are almost like the designers forum or like a monthly meetup that they do. So I think you could use LinkedIn to find the people similar to you that you're looking for, and then sort of be like, hey, like, where do you guys connect with other people? Because clearly this isn't it, but there has to be something. Or even just lean on your industry. Like, I know within the marketing industry, for example, there's, a lot of associations or like agency kind of bodies that try and set up weekly meetings and stuff. So it's sort of using LinkedIn to do the stalking and then figure out where the actual community building is happening if it's not on LinkedIn.
Yeah, Sonia's saying she's a concrete artist. She's a concrete artist. I doubt it. But
Yeah.
I wonder if there's like a broader, like artists or some kind of community, something
Yeah, I
out
mean, I,
there.
I suppose that's a harder one because historically I haven't seen a lot of artists on LinkedIn. But I mean, hey, like, there's always room for the first, right? Like, maybe you could start doing it and tell the artist community to come on LinkedIn and start talking about what they do, because that would be really cool to see.
Well, that's what I was thinking when you said, Chanel, you had come onto the platform initially and no one was posting the way you were.
Yeah,
It
I
was
stuck
very
out like a sore
sterile.
thumb.
It was a sterile. It's business people. They're in their
Yeah,
suits. Yeah. That's how I still think of LinkedIn, right? Because I'm not super active on it, but I
yeah,
love that you sharing that with us and saying you can stand out. So Sonia, in that way, if you have the bandwidth and you want to, you can actually create that space for
yeah.
you. You've been awesome, and the posts are relevant for all social media posts. That's true. The ones that
Yeah, they
you,
are very
yeah.
transferable. So, I mean, obviously, this conversation is about LinkedIn, but it's great content ideas for Instagram or Facebook or anything as well.
Fantastic. Well, I'm just going to, I see that we're a bit over.
Yeah.
And if anyone has any other questions, Chanel, how can people reach out to you?
Yeah,
Um,
just message me on LinkedIn, or add me on LinkedIn first and then message me. I mean, I'm happy to send the slide deck through as well if anyone wants to go through it in their own time. I know this is recorded as well, but yeah, if you've got any questions, if you want more of a one-on-one thing, like, just, I'm an open book. So come in my DMs and we'll chat.
yeah, you'll get that same message that I got, which was like, have we met? Hey, have we met?
Then you can say, I was listening to you on the webinar and it was amazing and I want to talk more. And I'll be like, oh, done.
I love that. Thank you. And then also, of course, if you have questions that maybe other questions you might have that Chanel might not be able to answer, you can reach out to us at digitalboost.co.nz. I don't think we've talked about recommendation. Are they worth doing or asking for? You never see a bad one. They always say how amazing the person is. So can you really trust them? We did have a conversation, yeah, earlier in the, I don't know, Andy, if you missed that part of the,
I mean, yeah, sure. Like
yeah.
obviously if you're allowing people to recommend you, then it is going to be a highlight reel of recommendations. No one's going to let someone post a negative recommendation. Well, then it's not a recommendation, right? But yes, it's a highlight reel. But I mean, if I was a recruiter, if I was comparing someone with 20 positive recommendations versus someone with none, it kind of gives me a little bit more of a taste. And I mean, recruiters ask for reference checks anyway, so it's the same thing. I mean, yes, sometimes you may not need them, but I think it can be valuable in certain situations.
Um, the questions keep coming in. Do you have a little more time to hang out with us, or do you have to run?
I do have to run, but like add me on LinkedIn and DM me. I've got the rest of the day to answer all this stuff. I've just got a meeting now, but like honestly, just fire them through. I will get through them, I promise.
Thank you, Chanel. I am going to release you then. Thank you, everyone. Sorry we didn't get to answer all of your questions, but as Chanel said, reach out to her on LinkedIn. And I will see you all on Thursday. We have another Q&A. Come and join me. Chanel, I adore you. Thank you for sharing your time with us. Go have a gorgeous day, everyone, and we'll talk later. Matewa.
Bye.